Black coral. Dili ya. Lagi ya. Cik, mereka nak turun cabai. Chal. Sino?
Not screwed up. Get ready to smile. Hold on, it's coming. You guys are sweet. Hold on, it's right there. It's behind your head.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're taking you on a ride through history, aboard the Georgetown Loop Railroad in beautiful Colorado. Locomotive sparkles. Our adventure started early in the morning. We had already booked our tickets online, and once we arrived at the station, the excitement kicked in. The Georgetown station looked straight out of an old Western movie, wooden benches, antique signs, and that nostalgic train whistle echoing in the distance. We walked up to the ticket window to collect our tickets. The staff was super friendly and shared a few quick tips about the route. The cool mountain air and scent of pine trees made everything feel fresh and peaceful. We took some time to film the station area, families waiting, kids running around with big smiles, and the distant sound of the steam engine warming up. It's the perfect way to start a day in the Rockies.
Handshake करो से. Look here. Come. चलो. आ जाओ. खड़े इसके बस.
After collecting our tickets, it was time to walk down the platform toward our train, and what a sight. The vintage steam engine stood proudly, puffing out little clouds of steam into the clear blue sky. The train cars looked beautifully restored, shiny metal, old-fashioned green paint, and wooden interiors that take you right back to the 1800s. The conductors greeted everyone warmly, helping us find our seats. We found our spot by the window, which was perfect for filming. As the whistle blew, you could feel that gentle vibration under your feet, that classic chug-chug-chug sound. It's the kind of moment that makes you smile without realizing it. Everyone on board was excited, cameras ready, kids waving, and that mix of history and adventure in the air. And then, the wheels started turning. Our journey had begun.
But 100 years later, this new bridge was built in the summer of 19.
I'm just kidding, folks.
Oh,
If it did sway,
so
well,
which
your
one is the
tickets
two?
would be a lot cheaper. Now, in just a moment, I politely ask everyone to please have those tickets out so your conductor and I can give them a verification punch. And I will be turning off the narration. Whenever we are down the hill, I will
And then came the highlight of the entire trip, the famous Georgetown Loop Bridge. As we approached the massive curve, everyone leaned out with cameras ready. The train started climbing upward and looped over itself in an incredible spiral. That's why it's called the Loop. The bridge stood high above the river, and when we reached the middle, the view was breathtaking. You could see miles of mountain ranges, the sparkling water below, and the entire train curving ahead of us. The conductor told us this bridge was an engineering wonder when it was first built, one of the steepest narrow-gauge railroads in the world. Standing there, you could feel the mix of power and precision that made it all possible. We filmed every second, the sound of the whistle echoing through the valley, the bridge stretching beneath the train, and everyone cheering as we crossed. This was the moment we'll never forget.
oh, so no problem. I can hear? आजा इधर बैठो Come. Now you have seen engine? Yeah. Steam engine.
I have some bad news. The good news is we're finally moving. Hooray! And the bad news is, well, it kind of seems like we're going the wrong way.
Oh, it's
I'm just kidding, folks. See, this movement is intentional. And no, it's not to get a running start. In fact, our 99-year-old steam locomotive has more than enough power to stop and start anywhere here on this line. You see, by using this lower track, we go back underneath the high bridge and let up to
नहीं इधर सीनिक भी और क्या उसको नीचे रख दो लेट्स कीप इट कम होल्ड कर दो इसको
As the train moved uphill, the scenery just kept getting better and better. Towering pine trees surrounded us, with rays of sunlight peeking through the branches. The sound of the steam engine echoed through the valleys. It was like listening to history in motion. Every curve revealed a new view, rocky cliffs, mountain streams sparkling below, and endless forest trails. We learned that this railroad was originally built back in the 1880s to connect the mining towns of Georgetown and Silver Plume. Imagine building tracks like these with hand tools and dynamite over a century ago. That's some serious engineering. We took slow-motion clips of the wheels turning, the smoke rising against the mountain sky, and the views that looked like they were painted by nature. If you ever visit Colorado, this ride is a must.
Look how far look नीचे It's locked.
gallons of water. So we'll be
After an unforgettable ride, we finally arrived at Silver Plume Station, a quiet little mountain stop surrounded by nature. The train slowed down, steam hissed, and everyone stepped off with smiles. We took some time to explore. There's a small museum, a gift shop with souvenirs, and old mining tools on display. The history here feels alive. We also grabbed a few closing shots of the train resting at the platform, with the sun setting behind the peaks. The air felt crisp and cool, the perfect ending to a beautiful day. Before we wrapped up, here are a few quick tips for your own trip. Book tickets online early, especially during summer. Sit on the right side for the best uphill views. And don't forget a light jacket, it can get chilly even in sunshine. That was our amazing ride on the Georgetown Loop Railroad, a journey through time, mountains, and history. Thanks for joining us, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more adventures from their vlogs. Locomotive Sparkles.
Go. Go, go. Yes, yes. Okay. It's in the moon. I'm going. Leave it, come. Come on, it's not going. Pick it up and hold it. Come. आजा 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 10 minutes we'll going water talk. Okay, they're taking like water because the steam engine, correct? It's a steam engine. Steam engine needs water. Coal as well as water. They need water. Look, they are filling water. Yeah. Water. Aja. Come here. Can you just hold on this? Just hold on, okay? I'll go with my son.
Lilian is
यहाँ पे खड़े जाना, यहाँ पे आजा, ठीक है? यहाँ पे जब व्हील चेयर है ना वहाँ पे खड़े जाना।
Now, some of you may have noticed that our engine is on the opposite side of the train. That's because at each terminal, we perform a runaround movement. That being because the valley here is so narrow that we can't turn the train or the engine around. So, here in Silver Plume, during our runaround movement, we take the engine off from the west end and secure it to the east end to pull us for the downhill ride. Excuse me, folks, would built to form a connection that would come up through the town of Silver Plume, tunnel beneath the Continental Divide at Loveland Pass, and then drop down into the rich mining towns of Breckenridge and Leadville. Now, after building only 5 miles west from Silver Plume to Graymont, the parent company of the GB&L acquired another line that would reach those mining towns from a different direction. And well, this would be known as the Denver, South Park, and Pacific. So there was no longer the need to continue this line, and it was cut back to Silver Plume. Now, off to the left-hand side, you will see Clear Creek tumbling its way down to the Georgetown Valley. And you betcha those waters are frigid because they are coming directly from snowmelt up on the Continental Divide, just a few miles west of here from Loveland Basin, where one of Colorado's fine ski areas is located. Now, Clear Creek gave our town and Georgetown the county. Though only a stub-in branch line from Denver, this railroad was very profitable in the early days, bringing miners, their families, and the supplies to the mountain communities, including that rich gold and silver ore, back to the Denver and Golden Mills to be processed. Now, this continued until 1893, when the Sherman Silver Purchase Act was repealed, and the price of silver dropped so low for mining was no longer profitable. And at that time, tourism was taking over as the main source of revenue for the railroad. And as the fame of the Georgetown Loop spread throughout the country and even the world, thousands came to ride on what was considered a scenic and engineering marvel of the 19th century. Today, it was very fashionable to hop aboard the train in the morning in Denver, ride up over the Georgetown Loop, have a picnic lunch in Silver Plume, and then be back in Denver just in time for supper. Now, between 1905 and 1918, many tours continued. We'll actually be hearing that little sequence again on our journey. But back to the Argentine Central Railroad. It offered an additional ride from Silver Plume on 7% grades to the mining town of Waldorf and onto the tip of Mount McClellan, elevation 13,500 feet. Now, on this very short-lived rail line, there were shade-geared locomotives that pulled this train along. It was often called the Stairway to the Stars. Now, by the 1920s, automobiles were taking over, and soon most people preferred that mode of transportation. After this incident dwindled in 1927, the railroad would discontinue passenger service. By the early 1930s, the railroad would continue to run a couple of freight trains a week for several more years. But with concert services and radio tracks under loan and cocaine, so we're fighting. And the Union Pacific donated 3 miles of 7-pound rail and a 60-foot truck bridge. This newly renovated line was complete in 1985, which marks 40 years of steam power. Now, I would call that dedication. Speaking of dedication, what does it take for those engines to prepare for the locomotive Olympics? Well, folks, they have to train really hard. And we are now entering the curve that we call the high hill. As soon as we clear these streets to the left, we get a good profile shot of our steam engine 111. And to the right, the world famous Step Escape line up. Now notice this bowl-shaped area here to the left. It was referred to as the ballpark or the outfield, and that's because in the early days there were no trees. They had all been cut down. So the line structure sound and firewood. Now folks, middle of this valley, and well, that would have destroyed our railroad and the mining history that it contains. Although the Historical Society felt that this history should be preserved, and they were successful in getting that highway department to locate the interstate on the side of the Republican Mountain where you see it today to save the old railroad grades. So the Historical Society began to rebuild the grade and track starting in Silver Plume in 1973. Now there were these two important people by the name of Lindsay and Rosa Ashley who already had narrow gauge train equipment and operations on their Central City line. And let's just say a new era was found. Mining structures, cabins, and firewood, and they had all been cut down for those things. All the trees were cut down for that stuff. Anyway, the miners that lived in this area would often spend their one day off a week enjoying picnics and ball games. But considering it was the 1890s, they had to have been playing in the minor leagues. I know, guys. My jokes are on the downhill here. Now, our railroad, like the GBL, is narrow gauge. That is, the rails have a physical gap of 3 feet apart. Although most railroads in our country, like BNSF or Amtrak, are standard gauge. That is, the rails have a physical gap of 4 feet and 8.5 inches. Now, narrow gauge is far more practical for the mountains, as these smaller cars are able to negotiate sharper curves, like the ones we just went around. Smaller cars are also lighter, which means less work for the engines to handle on steep grades. Now, speaking of steep grades, we are entering the steepest portion of the line, referred to as the ladder track. That is because we are climbing down a 4% grade, which means for every 100 feet of forward travel, we will be dropping 4 feet in elevation. Now, as a reference, 3 of our cars equal about 100 feet. Now, the narrow track meant that the roadbed could be built narrower, which is very important when building through terrain such as these large boulders we are passing through. You see, in the 1880s, there was no machinery to move these rocks. In order to build track, they would have to hand drill them, pack them with nitroglycerin and black powder, and then blast them into pieces small enough to be moved by hand or horse team. And we will be crossing Clear Creek, the little stream you saw as we left Silver Plume, for the first of 4 times on our descending journey. Now, coming up to the left, you will see a beautiful cascading waterfall. And as we continue around this corner, we will be entering into a rock cut. Notice the rock retaining walls on either side. They were built in the 1880s by the Cornish and Welsh miners without the use of mortar. And this method is known as dry stoning or dry stacking, and these walls have been standing for well over 100 years. Now, to the left side of the wall, there were some retaining bolts added about 36 years ago to ensure their stability as well as the additional weight of I-70. Now, coming up to the left side of the train will be our usual mine platform that is now transported into some kind of Christmas house. This is where we have our mine tours. No mine tours today, but at the bottom of that platform will be a trail that will guide you to a wooden wagon. No significance to the wagon, but next to it is the entrance to the Lebanon mine, the sister to the Everett, which means the two competing mines are connected by a cross tunnel about 1,200 feet back in the mountain. Now, in the heyday of the mining era, the Upper Cherokee Valley produced about $200 million worth of silver. Well, that was in the 19th century dollars. That would equate to about $5.6 billion today. All this silver production earned Georgetown its nickname as the Silver Queen of the Rockies, only coming in second to no other than Leadville, the Silver King. Now above I-70 on the mountainside, you might be able to see those tailings that are gray in color. Now with these argentiferous galena, which in layman's terms is just poor quality silver ore. But as we approach Idaho Springs, those mine tailings will be orange or yellow in color, which would indicate gold mines, because gold is usually associated with iron, which is going to give that rock a rusty color. And here we are entering into a clearing at the side of Hall Tunnel. The hall actually started out to be a transportation tunnel through Leavenworth Mountain so that people from the south side of that mountain could be brought here and loaded on the train. However, they had the worst of luck, or I guess you could say they couldn't mind their own business, because as they continued to dig, they encountered several rich silver veins, causing them to lose interest and proceed to mine that silver instead, never finishing the other side of that tunnel. Now come up to your right side of the train, you will see a large rusty machine and building foundation. And that machine is part of an immortal ran air compressor that was used to power all the air tools of the plane. Now fun fact about Hall Tunnel, it is one of the longest lasting mine sites in the state of Colorado, only closing its doors in 1942, outlasting the Sherman Silver Purchase Act of 1893, World War I, the wrath of the Great Depression, and the scrapping of this original railroad in 1939. Here soon, the engine will be entering a curve, from which you can see the lower tracks from the downhill side of the train, and we will enjoy those tracks in a few short minutes. But for those not familiar with the story of the loop, I don't blame you, it's pretty neat. But it was the surveyor's answer to the problem of getting this railroad from Georgetown to Silver Plume. See, the two towns are only 2 miles apart, but they differ in elevation by over 600 feet. And if this track had been laid well, that grade would have exceeded 6%. And that's far too steep for any normal railroad operation. So, to get away from this, the surveyors laid out a route that doubled back and looped over itself, allowing that average grade on the line to be held to 3.5%, increasing the distance between each town by 1.5 miles by rail. Now, at the time the loop was built, there were about 4 locations in the world where a railroad used a loop as a means of gaining elevation. See, in all cases but ours, the upper track crossing the lower was in a tunnel where that loop could not be seen. But in our case, everything was out in the open, with the upper track crossing the lower on a spectacular curved iron bridge, the world's famous Double Gate Viaduct, which was so named because before there were trees in the valley, the early residents of that canyon said that it looked and compared to that of a gate, and that the post that we once used when we were 52 miles away from Denver's Union Station by rail. And although we are no longer connected to downtown Denver, we still employ that milepost to determine our location here on this line. And speak of the devil. And once again, folks, we are coming into our next station. So just a friendly advisement to please find your seats, find your footing, find your friends, and your family. Today, Georgetown is a delightful Victorian village that offers quaint shops, fine restaurants, historical museums, and even a couple of old-fashioned ice cream parlors. My favorite.
To arrive, correct?
And although the Georgetown Loop may be a narrow gauge line, I certainly hope that the gauge of our service was not narrow. And although we may become a little sidetracked from our duties from time to time,
Wakala?
Welcome back, guys. Just watch this little dip right here, okay? Welcome back. Let's have a wonderful rest of your day. Just watch
Chalo.
this little dip right here.
आजा दर्श Wakala. हाँ कहीं और चलना है तो इतना राजधानी में खा पी लो फिर हाँ अभी वो जॉर्जटाउन में जो रेस्टरूम नहीं है वहाँ पे एक और है ना जहाँ पे आते थे विजिटर सेंटर पे वहाँ चले जाएंगे